Hey guys, this is WheatDraws here, and I'm going to show you how to make a very basic perk image with just assets that already exist in Dead by Daylight that I have set up for you to sort of Photoshop and photo bash together. So we're going to get this started. If you're not familiar, I use GIMP. That is the main program that I use for a lot of my editing and like small little text things. And I'm going to use that here for ease of access for those who might not own an art program, might not own things like a subscription to Photoshop or any other image editor. So we're going to be using that here. If you want to use GIMP, that's up to you. It is a free to use program. But if you have something else that you would prefer to use, hopefully the things that I do explain will make a little bit more sense. And you can sort of adapt it to whichever program you prefer to use it. So if you go to concept resources here, we're going to go to GIMP. You're going to download it. I already have mine downloaded, and so I already have everything installed there. So we're just going to go back to this. And once we have GIMP downloaded, we're going to go to the resource links that are here. There's icon type assets, which if you go here, click on the Google Drive here, you will find concept template here for, let's see, power text box, which you can find a way to use. You can use that in a similar way to the add-on and Perk text box tutorial, which I have posted as well. So you can follow the rules for that. But here we're going to look at favors, which is another name, an internal name for offerings. There's templates and versions for every single one. There's tiers 5 through 1. Overlay locked, kill switch, blank, silver, vent, blue, artifact, so on. Item and power, you'll find a similar setup here, as well as an overlay for a plus for add-ons usually. But what we're going to do is we're going to go here. So you're going to want to download whatever you want to use, but for this example, we're going to do perks. So we're just going to get the purple one, which I already have. So I'm going to go over and we're going to open up GIMP. And I'm going to find my own saved files for this. So we're going to drag that in. You can either drag it into this area here or over here, or you can open it up from file and open as layers, or just open it straight. So with that now in there, we have this image of the perk diamond. So what we're going to do is we're going to look over here at our layers. We're going to add plus a new layer so that everything that we do on this layer here, if I draw this large sort of shape here, and we click toggle off the background layer, the diamond does not affect that. So make sure you know what layer you're working on before you do anything. This is not going to be a huge GIMP tutorial here. This is going to be me just showing you how you can make a very basic perk by using the assets provided. So if we go back to here, all right, well, how do we make an icon? Like I don't know how to draw. I can draw like little stick man, right? And also, for what it's worth, it doesn't matter. Like your icons don't need to be perfect. Like you don't even have to do icons for a concept. Some people kind of just rock with like photoshopped images on them. That's totally fine. But this is for those who want to start to try to make something a little bit more convincing, or at the very least, a little more official looking using official resources, which has happened. But I want to offer you a way of doing it that looks more clean rather than sort of editing around. And I'll show you the tricks that Behavior uses for icons that you might not already know about. So we're going to go to icon design assets here. So this is going to take you to something that isn't those. These are types. So perk types, it's going to be hard to see because they're white, but they're labeled Survivor Boon. This is the circle that goes around a boon. If you want to make a boon, you can take this and you can paste it into what you're using, right? I also have, this will probably look different depending on when you watch this because I'll be adding to this. I also have my own custom temp frame here as well. Assets such as like people like killer or hands or eyes, things like that, different poses. So what we're going to do is we're going to design a perk using a couple of these. I want to make a perk that an icon, my perk says it does something when someone gets hooked or when you're carrying someone to hook, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to people killer and I'm going to change this so I can see the names a little bit more clearly. And let's see, if I go to person, action weak, action, there is a carry. Pretty sure. Action carried. So if I switch back to this, this is the carry icon. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to keep that in mind. Okay, next we're going to go back to this here, and we're going to see objects. So objects, we can see things like totems, skulls, different skull types, piles, stuff like that. And we're going to go down to hooks here. So there's different shapes of hooks, different kinds of hooks that we can do. I think what I want to do is I want to grab this hook. Okay, now that we have that saved, we're going to go back and we're going to open GIMP back up. And then we're going to grab those files that we made. And we're going to, here, let me move this over. We're going to drag that file in, or you can open it as layers or and drag it in. You can drop it wherever. If I just click here in the middle, there's the carried person file and then the hook file. And these create their own separate layers. So now that I have these in here, what do? Looks kind of messy. So easy enough. What we can do is if we click on whatever layer, like let's click on the carried person, and we turn this opacity, which is 100, we turn it around 50 or 40, it's about less than half transparent. Makes it easier to see where the hook is. So I can also use the move tool up here to grab this by the layer and move it around. But how do I want to do that? So it's too big. It's too bulky and in the way. So I'm going to go here to the scale tool here. This little like square rectangle that moves. If I click anywhere on that selected layer, this little scale menu pops up. Basically, I can drag and make it as large or as small as I want. So if I do this, or I can grab the middle and I can move it centered, I can figure it out. If I uncheck this little chain here, I can make it as tall as I want, as short as I want, as wide or as whatever as I want. And if you think, oh, I messed it up, like maybe I, oh no, that's not, I can't use that. You hit reset right here, and it goes back to where it was when you first started resizing it. So we're gonna click this link again, make sure it scales so it's consistent, and we're gonna make it about that big. And this shows you the pixel, or you can change it to percent, inches, so on and so forth. And then we're gonna hit scale. So we have that, and then we're gonna drag and move this guy down here. But the hook's a little bit big, so we're going to do the same thing, just a little bit. We're gonna move you up. Perfect. Now that we can see it, we can turn the opacity back up. Now it's back at 100. But it's missing something. It's missing, it doesn't look like there's too much blank space here on the sides, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back and we're going to grab some more assets here. Let's see, let's get some entity effects. So there's different kinds of entity effects that you can see here. Let's say we're gonna get these little claws here. Again, some of these are hard to see in Google Drive, so I do recommend downloading the entirety of the icon design assets folder. It's all a bunch of PNGs. It's nothing too great. So it's great in terms of file size, but you can download those and you can go comb through them yourself, and you'll see them a lot clearer in File Explorer. So we're going to download this entity clause here. Great. Now that we have the entity clause here, we're going to drag them in. Okay, they're a little high, so what we're going to do is we're going to move them down just a little bit. And there we go. All right, let's just say that's like a perfect fine. Maybe this is a little off center from where we want, so we'll move it a little bit closer to the left. So let's say this is the perk that we want. We want something like this. If you can see these little white specks around here, you can also erase them, but for the purposes of keeping this pretty straightforward, I'm not going to do that. And then if you ever are like, oh, I don't want the hook anymore, you can just change that. You can turn it on and off with this little thing, or you can delete the layer entirely with this little X down here. I do advise with GIMP exploring your options and kind of messing with everything. The best way to learn something, in my opinion, is sort of messing around with the tools in an image editor and see what looks cool, what works for you. So we're gonna have this. Now here's the thing. This looks fine. This looks like a perfectly fine perk. But behavior does this cool little trick that I just call the shadow of a perk, which is this extra layer that hides underneath all the white and adds a little bit of depth and separation from the rarity. So if I just do this, it's just pure white. But if you've seen transparent files for perks before, you would know that they have that little shadow. So for example, if I go and grab, let's say I go grab, hold on. I'll just show this example as one of my perks. If I grab this, there's this little shadowy like thing around it. That's kind of like an outline, right? So how do I do that? So if you set up a layer down here, you make a little transparent layer. We did that before, but if you haven't yet, what you can do is select your perk diamond here, click this button here that creates a new layer. Just gonna hit OK. And that's an extra layer with nothing in it currently. So what we're gonna do is we're going to grab whatever instrument you prefer to draw with or trace with. You don't need to be perfect with this. And I'll show you exactly why. We're gonna grab, for example here, we're gonna grab the paintbrush tool. And we're gonna use pure black. Make sure it's this left here. If it's not, or you don't know how to change it back, you can click this little cheat cut here. You can swap these foreground and background colors, but you can click this and it'll automatically set it to black and white. So we're going to do this. We're gonna actually turn off the perk so I can show you better. And basically we're just gonna make an underlayer that goes roughly in the shape of the perk here. And we don't want to make it too big. For a general rule, perks don't extend too much beyond the perk border. Sometimes they do, a little bit, but not usually. Especially their shadows. So we have this little trace. There we go. And then it's up to you if you want to fill this up completely with it. But for here, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to make it so I get most of everything here. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be like an exact size or length or that kind of thing. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna go to the fill bucket tool here, or you can just do it with your own mouse, which I would recommend with whatever tool you have. Currently I'm doing it with mouse, despite me having a tablet, because I just want to show you that it does not need to be perfect by any means. And if you think you missed any spots, another cool trick you can do is you can move the layer to the top here by clicking and dragging and basically just going over it entirely. Or you can turn every other layer off and then just do it that way. Right? So let's just do this real quick. It might be a little sloppy, but excuse me. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now we move this back down, just over the perk diamond, but under all the white. Activate perk diamond. Great. Except now it just looks like a really heavy black line outline. Like it doesn't really look like a perk. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to opacity, this little thing that's underneath this thing called mode and at the top of our layers. Opacity is the trick. So my advice is, I see people that do different opacity levels for this. My advice is to go to about 40%. If you click and drag here, or you can click on the numbers here, and I type in 40 and hit enter, it's about that much. But I have seen some people go to about like 60. It's a little bit more noticeable, but I think 40 is like a really nice sweet spot. So now you have this little shadow here, and it's consistent. It's even. It doesn't oversect. So for example, if I have seen someone who has done that. You can do it in this way, but it is harder, I will say, where you make your brush at 40% opacity or something around there. So you're doing this, which does work. However, if you have to start another brush stroke, it overlaps, and it continuously overlaps. And it can look really dodgy and really messy. So we're not doing that. So turn that back to normal. We have that. Now, if we look, we can see a little bit of it up here is starting to come off, which is fine. But if you don't want that, I advise just erasing it a little bit. And that's how you can put that together a perk. Experiment with it, try to figure it out. And then if you want to export it, you can always go up here to File, export as, if you overwrite, like what it says there, it will overwrite basically the perk diamond that I imported as the starting point. If you're making perks to be in game, the file size will always, the image size will always need to be 256 pixels by 256 pixels. So if you do this when you export it, you don't, if you ever seen in-game files, they don't have the rarity background because the game adds that in regardless. It'll always be behind the perk. So if you've ever seen someone with an icon pack and they have like a special color or something to it, those are always with it because they're covering up the rarity that's always projected behind them. It's a very silly thing, but when you see it, you'll go, oh, that makes sense. Because otherwise they need to convey the rarity to you. So you have that, you export it as this, you can name it whatever you want. And if you're doing it in icon files, I recommend looking at Nightlight's guide for that to make a pack. That way you know exactly what you're doing and how to do it safely and make sure that it works. But that's how you can make a very basic icon very easily with just simple image editing. You don't need any crazy software, you don't need to buy anything, and all these assets are available for free. Thank you so much for watching, paying attention. If you need any help or you would like some advice or something's not working for you, please come by the WheatDraws Discord server where we have concept resources, concept discussion, and I also post all of my work and my projects that I'm working on. We would love to have you, and you're welcome at any point in time. If there's anything else that any other guides that you need, you can find them here on this YouTube channel, or you can find them through the Discord, the concept resources. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your concepts, and I appreciate the support.